Hello, my name is Glenn Dyer, and you are watching a Dyer-Situation. Today I'm seeing Star Trek Beyond. Once again, colons are for suckers, apparently. So. So, for those of you who might recall, when I did a review of Star Trek in the Darkness, I'd seen the 2009 Star Trek movie, and that was pretty much my only exposure to Star Trek, right? And so I was just judging it pretty much as a sequel based on a sequel to that movie, right? Okay. Since I have done that, that was two years ago, maybe 3. Since that movie came out, I have seen all of the Star Trek TV shows, including the animated series, all of the original cast movies, all of the Next Generation movies, and I am very in tune with the lore. I have merchandise. Star Trek poster. Can't really see it. Well, calendar, I mean. And I do consider myself a Trekkie now, so yeah, a little's changed. So now I get to see this movie through that light. And my opinion on what this movie's gonna be like is... I don't know. Honestly, I'm not... Despite the fact that I have seen advertisements, they aren't giving me much of a hint of any kind of plot. So... I don't know. It looks okay. I mean, the poster looks like some sort of stylized 1950s B-movie poster, but that's about it. I really don't know what to expect. I'm hoping it's good. I'm hoping there's lots of those J.J. Abrams references for fans like me to like, but not so many that it bogs down the movie, like Star Trek in the Darkness. That's about it. Let's see it. Alright, so that was, in a lot of ways, a step forward, and in a few others, a step back. So, this is not Star Trek in the Darkness in terms of how many references they made. In fact, the main villain in this is a totally original guy. So, there you go. Totally original guy. They aren't even reusing a species or something, even though I kind of thought that that the people he was working with looked like the Jem'Hadar for a second, and then I started wondering if they were the villains from Star Trek Nemesis, and that made me worried, but no. Nemesis is far behind us. But anyway, so, just getting a few little things out of the way. I don't know if it was my showing exactly, although I don't see how it could just be my showing. I'm not sure how, like, this could be, like, the theater's equipment messing up, but the sound mixing in this movie, especially around the beginning, was really distractingly terrible. Like Captain Kirk is saying something over some time span. He's like giving captain's log or something, and the music is overpowering him a lot of the time, and this that happens a lot. Like, sound effects and music drown people out on many occasions, and that wasn't in the first two. As I said, like, if nobody else is experiencing that, like, I guess it was just mine, but I don't see how that could be possible. So, yeah. But other than that, what else? So one of the things I liked is that, is that this movie successfully took the whole cast and crew and had them dealing with something awful happening that wasn't involving the Earth. As you all should know, like Star Trek, it's honestly about exploration. It's about dealing with problems that are out in space, right? And a lot of the movies, this isn't just the Abrams movies, the original series movies too, they always seem to have to involve Earth in some way. Because of course, they're working under the assumption that if it wasn't Earth, we wouldn't care. And they're kind of right. I mean, like, we're just as, like, a general audience, people are less likely to concern themselves with a space station than with Earth, like, where we all currently live. But I think it did a really good job of shifting it over. Instead, the main target thing that's in danger here is this really, honestly, awesome-looking planet-sized space station that looks ridiculous, but somehow super awesome too. Like, there's all these stretching pathways with their own artificial gravity, so it looks like an MC Escher painting, basically, with everything is inverted. And there's this action scene in there where they're kind of playing around with that whole idea that the gravitational pull is all wonky all over the place. And that was good. I like those parts. And then there's other parts where, like the villain himself, like, though he is original, his motivations are incredibly vague. Like, they don't give him much of any kind of backstory or any kind of reason for what he's doing until around the very end. And even then, it's not very understandable. And also, it's not very understandable how he is even able to accomplish anything he's done. like he has this whole army and stuff. Like an entire army of disposable soldiers at his side, with no explanation how he got them. But he just has them. Like, I'm not gonna spoil it, but, like, in his backstory, he specifically mentions that he was pretty much stranded alone and somehow got all this crap. I don't know. It was distracting. What else? Something interesting I found. A lot of people, their main problem with with the J.J. Abrams movies is that, with the first one especially, they basically just rebooted the whole, series and made it so that, like, none of those other movies, the shows, including the Next Generation stuff, like, none of that ever happened because of a time travel incident, right? And that was one of their main problems. But the only one that wouldn't have been affected by that is Enterprise, which is the one set 100 years before the original series. Although, but this movie, funnily enough, it has certain aspects to it that make it seem like it's, if it hasn't completely delegitimized Enterprise, then it's at least devalued it to a certain extent. Mostly because they come across this ship and it's like, oh, this is the first Warp 4 vessel ever made, and it was lost long ago, or something like that. And it's like the USS, I think it was like the USS Falcon or USS Phoenix or something. And it's just funny because, for those of you who don't know, the plot of Enterprise is that they're piloting the first ever Warp 4 vessel, and it's the NX-1 Enterprise. And that's the whole thing. So, like, if this series is saying that this is a different ship that's the first Warp 4, then that means that the Enterprise doesn't exist in this world. And honestly, I'm fine with it. Enterprise is the only Star Trek series I did not like. Not from beginning to end. I mean, Voyager, I had a lot of problems with the first 3 seasons, but after that it was good. Enterprise, no point. Admittedly, it started trying a lot harder during the 3rd and 4th seasons, but still didn't like it very much. And yeah, that's the main issue with it. The villain isn't very understandable, and there's honestly a lot less character drama in this than there was in the first two. Like I guess with this, the whole arc of this story is James Kirk is trying to figure out who he is, I suppose. Like, because he feels like, well, my dad was doing this because he wanted to explore space, but I joined on a dare, you know, and he's just contemplating, what am I doing all this for and stuff. Didn't we already do that, though? Like, didn't we handle that in the first one? Maybe in the second? Like, it feels like we're just, like, backtracking here. So as I said, like, a few steps forward and maybe a step or two back. And this is especially true when you realize at the very end of the movie that literally nothing has changed at all. I mean, at the end of Star Trek 1, like the first Star Trek, you know, there's, you know, Kirk has become a captain and stuff, and things are looking great. And in Star Trek Into Darkness, he begins the 5-year mission, and everything's looking great. And at the end of this movie, he continues the 5-year mission. Everything's great, I guess. And another thing that annoyed me, when they started this movie, they mentioned that this was 3 years into the 5-year mission, right? So the Enterprise is at least 3 years old, probably more. And when I'm looking all over the ship, it looks like it was made yesterday. And I know it's the future and stuff, and like everything's chrome in the future. But like nothing. The floor doesn't even look scuffed. I mean, especially with the way they pilot and stuff, like in this movie, like just doing basic maneuvering exercises, they just ram into space rocks and stuff. Like there isn't even like a scratch on the hull from anything. They went on a 3-year mission. Do you know what an average day in the original series looked like? Like, and the Enterprise isn't even scuffed at all? I had a lot of trouble believing that. Like, one of the cool things about, say, Pacific Rim is that when you look at those Jaegers and the way they work and stuff, and you're looking at the interior and the exterior, they look like they've been in service for a while. You can see signs of rust on them from being in the water all the time. You can see wear and tear on the insides from people moving around and stuff. It's not that the ship's not being maintained, it's just that, like, you know, things get old. And that should be happening at least on a small scale. Like, it seriously looks like they've barely taken the plastic off of it, you know? Jeez. And another thing. I know this is nerdy, but, they mentioned that the warp core they found was like, oh, we can't take this off the ground. These older models were built in space. They weren't designed for landing and taking off. And it just made me go, you know, just looking at the Enterprise the way it is, it doesn't exactly look like it's designed to take off and land on the ground either. It has literally no landing track. It's incredibly top-heavy, too. It would, like, fall flat on its face and cause an immense amount of damage if you tried to land it. Maybe it's because when that ship was designed, it was originally designed, it was built in space, but then when they rebooted the series, the director felt that it would have a more emotional impact if it was being built on the ground, so the captain could see it and have an emotional connection with his destiny or something. Yeah, whatever. So yeah, I'm a little glad that this series is slowly moving away from just make a general movie for everyone type thing, but it's still not at the point where I think it would fully satisfy a Star Trek fan. So I guess check it out if you're really interested. It's it has moments, as I mentioned, like that the climactic scene when they're battling in the weird gravity place, like that's pretty cool. But I don't know, just overall I don't think much was accomplished with this. Feels very road trippy. So, sadly. But who knows? Maybe the next one will be better. We'll see. I hope there is a next one. There probably will be. And until next time, I'm Glenn Dyer, and you have been watching A Dire Situation.